72a1, the fourth chapter. The name of the chapter is Beheimah Maksho. The Gemara asks, "V'ha ubar v'chayo d'chishtei tabois damu." Consider the Mishnah's case, the fetus and the midwife were analogies to two rings that are swallowed up in the same person. So we learned yesterday that if you swallow up two rings, one ring is pure and one ring is impure, and you walked into a place of impurity, you walked into a house or a cave where there is a dead person there, a corpse, or you went into a house that is afflicted with saras, we learned that the rings do not contaminate each other. And it says that similarly, when you have a fetus that is dead and you have a midwife that touched the fetus, the chishtei tabois damu are analogies to two rings that are swallowed up in the same person. For the Mishnah deals with a situation in which the midwife extended her hand into the womb and touched the fetus that was swallowed up there. The fetus is like considered like swallowed up in the stomach. Yet the Mishnah rules that the fetus contaminates the midwife. Clearly, even a swallowed up object transmits tumah. So why did we learn before that a swallowed up object does not transmit tumah? It's clearly that it does. The fetus is like a swallowed up object. It's in the mother's womb. It says a fetus is different because it will ultimately come out of the womb intact. Therefore, it is not classified as swallowed up when something is genuinely swallowed up. However, it does not transmit tumah even to that which is swallowed up with it. Meaning, the person that swallowed up the object does not become tummy. Will a fetus ultimately come out of the womb intact and a ring not ultimately come out? The ring will come out as well. Certainly, a ring will eventually be discharged while intact, and nevertheless, you consider that swallowed up, leading you to rule that it does not contaminate another ring that is swallowed up with it. Let a fetus also be considered swallowed up, and let it not contaminate the midwife who inserts her hand in the womb. The Pumbediso and those who live in Pumbedita knew or know the reason for this matter. Umanu Rav Yosef, and who is it? As that was from Pumbedisa was Rav Yosef. The Omar Rav Yosef, Omar Yehuda, Omar Shmuel. Rav Yosef said in the name of Rav Yehuda, who said in the name of Shmuel, Tumazo eina medivra Torah ela medivra seifrim. This contamination of the midwife of the fetus by the fetus is not affected under biblical law, but only by the words of the seifrim. That is, although the fetus should by right not contaminate her. Why? Because it is swallowed up in the womb, the rabbis decreed that she be considered tamei nonetheless. Meaning this is an exception to the rule. Usually a swallowed up object does not contaminate, but in the case of a womb, the rabbis decreed that it should contaminate. What is the meaning of the redundant declaration that the midwife's tumah is not affected under biblical law, but only by the words of the seifrim, by the rabbis rabbinically? It would have sufficed for Rav Yosef to state simply, this is a rabbinic decree. Tell me, it's not medivra Torah, it's medivra seifrim. Just say it's medivra seifrim. The loy teima, that you should not say that the Mishnah was taught only aliba de Rabbi Akiva de Omer Uba b'meisha tameh. The Mishnah was taught only in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, who says that a dead fetus in a woman's womb is tameh, i.e. capable of transmitting tumah by biblical law. Rather, even according to Rabbi Shmuel, who says that uba, a fetus in the mother's womb, is tahir, gozu ba tumah derabanan. They still decreed a contamination rabbinically, even according to Rabbi Shmuel, who was more lenient. My time, Amar Rav Yeshua, what is the reasoning? Rav Yeshua said, Gezer Hashem v'yotziv lo d'rosh chutz laprosdor. The decree was enacted because of the concern perhaps the fetus will extend his head out of the antechamber, i.e. the birth canal, being legally born and acquiring the capacity to transmit tumah biblically, even according to Rabbi Shmuel, and the midwife will touch it thinking that it is still unborn and incapable of transmitting tumah, to ensure that the midwife does not erroneously consider herself Torah. In this case, the rabbis declared her tameh even if she touches the fetus while it is still completely enclosed in the womb.
She might not know that the baby's dead.
Yeah, that's my question.
Right. So, I mean, the baby can come out. You think, okay, I'll rub it a little bit. I'll start breathing. Baruch Hashem. You don't know if the baby's still born or dead in the womb.
Right. Regardless, if she touches the baby, she touches the fetus and the fetus is dead. If she touches the fetus in the womb, it's only rabbinically. It's rabbinical tumah. If she touches the baby while it's in the birth canal, in the antechamber, then it's a biblical tumah. So Chachamim didn't want her to, by mistake, transmit tumah to other people. Okay. She wanted her to know that she's tameh. So they said, regardless, even according to Rabbi Shmuel, that is more lenient, they said that she is tameh.
But how they say that the fetus will extend its head out? He's dead.
It's not him, it's the mother's pushing. It's the contractions are pushing the baby. It's not, baby is not pushing anything. Baby is an object that is inside the stomach. The contractions of the mother are pushing the baby out. Okay. How does the mother pushes out the placenta? The placenta comes out after the baby is out, in most cases. Okay. Contractions are pushing it out. The Gemara says, if so, let the woman giving birth also be declared tameh on account of this concern. It says in number 8, although while in the womb, the dead fetus cannot contaminate her, the mother, biblically, because it is tumah belua, it's tumah that is swallowed up, and because it is touching her in a concealed area, when it emerges, it certainly contaminates her through contact with her flesh. If there is a concern for confusion regarding the tumah of legal birth, let us decree that she be considered tameh as soon as the fetus dies, even before birth occurs. Why does the Mishnah rule her tahor until the fetus emerges? It should be considered tameh from the moment that the fetus died. The Gemara says, Isha margeshes is ba'atzmo. There's a difference between a woman who is giving birth and the midwife. Why? Because Isha margeshes is atzmo. It says a woman in labor senses in herself the point in which the fetus emerges from her womb and knows that she is tameh from that point onward. V'seim alon lechayon, let her tell the midwife, who will then know that if she subsequently touches the fetus, she is contaminated. Let the woman notify the midwife. The Gemara says, Terida, the woman in labor is preoccupied with her labor, with the pain, and cannot be relied upon to inform the midwife when she becomes susceptible to contamination by the fetus.
And this said specifically on the other page by touching by the flesh. Now she's wearing a glove.
Saying that
they had gloves, but let's say she's wearing a glove and she goes in and touches.
It doesn't help because the glove it's like a gufo, it's like his body. It doesn't change anything. Okay. The Gemara says, "My Rabbi Shmuel and my Rabbi Akiva." What is the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel and what is the conflicting opinion of Rabbi Akiva that you mentioned? The Tanya, it was taught in a braiso. Think about a guy that walks into a cave where there's a corpse there. So, well, he's wearing clothing. Doesn't change anything. His clothing also becomes tameh. The Tanya, the scripture states, anyone that touches on the open field a corpse shall be tameh for 7 days. So a pregnant woman went into a field and she touched a corpse, and then the baby was born. Is the baby tameh or not?
No.
Right? She went to a field, she touched a corpse. She had a baby inside her stomach. So it says the phrase on the open field comes to exclude a dead fetus in the womb, in the woman's womb, from contaminating one who touches it. Div Rabbi Shmuel. So over here, let's speak about a fetus that is dead, stillborn, and if that fetus has the power to contaminate other people. Div Rabbi Shmuel, these are the words of Rabbi Shmuel. Rabbi Akiva Imer. Rabbi Akiva says, "L'rabbis goylel v'doifek." This phrase comes to include the cover and wall of a coffin as having the capacity to contaminate who touches them. Some touches the coffin, not the corpse. He also becomes tummy. The Gemara explains why each Tana rejects the other exposition. Rabbi Shmuel goylel v'doifek. Rabbi Shmuel maintains Goyel v'doifek hilchaso gemirilo. The cover and wall of a coffin transmit tuma is a halacha learned as part of the oral tradition taught to Moshe Sinai, so that the pasuk is not needed to teach it. Therefore, the pasuk must come to exclude a fetus from transmitting tuma. Rabbi Akiva maintains that uba b'mei shotome. Rabbi Akiva says a dead fetus in a woman's womb is in fact tummy, capable of transmitting tumah by biblical law, as derived below. And this verse therefore cannot mean to exclude it from tumah transmission. Furthermore, the law that the cover and wall of a coffin transmit tumah was not handed down by oral tradition. The pasuk may be understood as coming to teach it.
It's coffin.
The box. They put the dead person in the box. It's called a coffin. Midoraisa menale. From where in the Torah does Rabbi Akiva derive that even a dead fetus in the womb is tumah? In Israel, they don't use the coffin, unless it's a soldier. For soldiers, they use a coffin. For a regular person, they don't use a coffin.
For the soldiers.
Because if they use a coffin for soldiers, people would think that soldier was probably dismembered completely, and they don't want people to know, so they put him in a coffin. So they decided all soldiers are in a coffin. So you don't know what was the situation when they died. You don't know if the body is complete. It's not complete. They were exploded. In some cases, there's only they put the tag of the box inside the box. There's nothing else. What they put inside. So they won't be able to know.
At least you could put inside that
a lot of it is just for the ceremony. Well, they don't have anything. If they have something, fine. But they don't want people to know what was the condition of the soldier when he was buried. So they put him in a coffin.
And if there's no one in the coffin and a bunch of people are like walking behind it and doing all these things, it's still...
I said it's just a ceremonial thing to give honor to the neshama. There's no body. What they're gonna do?
Teresa starts with tuma. You must be Jewish.
Yeah, a goy doesn't contaminate.
He doesn't get contaminated, or he doesn't contaminate either.
He's not tumah. He doesn't have the laws of tumah. A goy doesn't contaminate you.
Even if there's a dead goy somewhere, it doesn't.
Midoraisa Menala, from where in the Torah does Rabbi Akiva derive that even a dead fetus in the womb is tameh? Amar Rabbi Yeshaya, Amar Khan, Noigea b'meis benefesh. Scripture states one who makes contact with a corpse with a human soul shall be tameh. The redundant phrase b'meis benefesh, which means literally with a corpse with a human soul, may be understood as with a corpse that is within a human being, leading to the following deduction. Ezu meishe benefesh shel adam, which is a corpse that is within a human being. You might say, or you must say, this is a fetus in a woman's womb. And the pasuk states that anyone who touches it shall be tameh. But Rabbi Shmuel argues that that the pasuk is needed to teach that the revis of blood that comes from a corpse transmit tumah. Shenemar negea b'meis b'nefesh adam. For it is stated, one who makes contact with a corpse with a human soul shall be tomei. The pasuk with a human soul teaches that even a soul without a corpse has the capacity to contaminate. Ezu nefesh adam shemetame have eimer zo revis dam. Which is the human soul that transmits tumah? It is blood. Revis dam. Revis, probably 2.8 ounces of blood, or 3.1. Rabbi Akiva, at the time, and Rabbi Akiva follows his own reasoning. The Omar, af revis dama bo mishne meisim etama be'oil. Rabbi Akiva said that even a revis of blood that comes from two corpses transmit via a roof. The Tanya, it was taught in a Bais. Rabbi Akiva, from where do we know that a revis of blood that comes from two corpses transmit tuma via a roof? Shenema val kol nafshis meis lo yavo, for it is stated, and to any dead souls he shall not enter. Shtei nefoshes v'shiur echad. The pasuk refers to two souls, but only one measure of blood, indicating that even a revis of blood that comes from two corpses, two bodies, it transmits tumah. Hence, the previous pasuk, which discusses only one soul, cannot be understood as referring to the law that a revis of blood transmits tumah. For this would be obvious. It must instead mean that a fetus that dies in the womb is tameh. In conclusion, Rabbi Akiva derives from to any dead souls he shall not enter, even a revis of blood from two corpses transmit tumah. This causes him to interpret one who makes contact with a corpse with a human soul as meaning that a corpse that is within a human being, a dead fetus in the womb, transmit tumah. This in turn leads him to expound on the open field as teaching that the cover and the wall of an exposed coffin are tummy. The new Mishnah, the Mishnah returns to the case of an animal fetus that put forth a limb from the womb and examines its status with respect to tumah. So an animal, let's say a cow, is giving birth, and the calf stuck his hand out, right? Beheimah makshaleled. If an animal was in difficult labor, and the fetus put forth its foreleg, and one severed it. He cut the leg that came out. He saw the animal was having a hard time to give birth, so he was afraid maybe the animal will die. So he cut off the limb. From whatever limb that came out, he cut it off. And then he slaughtered its mother. He was afraid the mother will die, and then he lost all the meat. So he quickly shechted the mother. The remaining flesh of the fetus is tahor. You can eat the fetus. If one slaughtered its mother, and then severed the foreleg that was out of the womb. Haboso maganevela, the flesh of the fetus which had been attached to the protruding limb, is tameh on account of contact with the nevela. So now the flesh of the fetus, the meat of the fetus, is tameh. Can't eat it. Before we said that if you cut off a piece that came out, the fetus is kosher. And now we say that if he didn't cut it off, it's tameh. He cannot eat the fetus. If one slaughtered its mother and then severed the foreleg, the flesh of the fetus which had been attached to the protruding limb is tameh on account of contact with nevela. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. But the sages say, Magat terefa shechuta, the flesh is tame on account of contact with a slaughtered terefa. So the difference between Rabbi Meir and Chachamim, Rabbi Meir says is nevela, and Chachamim said it's shchuta, it's treifa.
But they both have reasons.
Of course, that's what the Gemara is for. The Gemara will discuss the reasonings. Ma matzinu betreifa, the Mishnah continues, the sages present the reasoning behind their opinion. What did we find regarding a treifa animal? Sheshchito metaharto. That its shchita purifies it, spares it from becoming contaminated as nevela upon dying. Av shchita sabeimot teteres. So too in our case, the shchita of the mother should purify, shchita of the animal, the mother, should purify the protruding limb of her fetus, should spare it from becoming or from being contaminated as nevela. Amar lem Rabbi Meir responded to the rabbis, to the sages, Lo, this does not follow logic, or logically. For im tihara shechitas treifa, so if the shechita of treifa purifies the animal itself, this is reasonable. Why? Davar shegufa, it is affecting purification of something that is its own body. Should it therefore also purify the protruding limb of its fetus? Davar she'eino gufa, which is something that is not part of its own body, I therefore say that the limb is contaminated like nevela. The Mishnah focuses on the undisputed rule that the slaughter of nevela spares it from becoming contaminated as nevela. Minan letreifa sheshchitaso metaharto. From where is it derived? Regarding treifa, that it's shchita, the shechting that purifies it. Perhaps shchita is entirely ineffective for it. In fact, logic would seem to dictate that shchita does not spare it from acquiring the tumah of nevela. For consider the following: Beheimah tmei asur b'achila. An unclean animal is prohibited for consumption. Af treifa asur b'achila. And a treifa is prohibited for consumption. It therefore follows that ma beheimah tmei shchitoso metarto, just as regarding an unclean animal. Scripture teaches that its shchita does not purify it of the tumah of nevela. It says in number 5, an unclean animal is completely excluded from having an act of shchita performed on it. Slaughtering its pipes is no different than piercing or tearing them. From where is it derived regarding treifa that its shchita purifies it? Perhaps shchita is entirely ineffective for it. In fact, logic would seem to dictate that shchita does not spare it from acquiring the tumah of nevela. For consider the following: Beheimah tmei asur b'achila. An unclean animal is prohibited for consumption. Treifa asur b'achila. And a treifa is prohibited for consumption. Ma beheimah tmei shchitoso metarto, just as regarding an unclean animal. Scripture teaches that its shchita does not purify it of the human of the tumah of nevela. Of treifa lo tetareno shchita. So too regarding a treifa, let its shchita not purify it of the tumah of nevela. The Gemara says, "Loi, your argument is invalid. For imamat bebeheimah tmeo, if you are regarding an unclean animal that shchita does not purify it, this is reasonable. Since an unclean animal did not ever have a moment of fitness for being purified through shchita, as it was prohibited for consumption and unfit for shchita from the moment it was born. Tema betreifa, will you say the same thing regarding a treifa? When it comes to the treifa of a kosher animal, which initially had a moment of fitness for shchita, since when it was born, and not yet tereifa, it was fit to be rendered both permissible for consumption and tahor through shchita. It is like any other kosher animal in regard to shchita. Hence, even when it develops the treifa defect and becomes prohibited for consumption, it remains fit for shchita in as so far as being purified of tuma thereby. The Tana contends, however, this explanation is insufficient. You may remove this proof that you brought, even if we accept your reasoning. Why? Consider the case of an animal that was born treifa from the womb, so that it never had a moment of fitness for being rendered permissible through its own shechita. Menayin, from where do you derive that this one can be purified through shechita? The Tana therefore offers an alternative rebuttal to the original argument. Loi, a treifa is not analogous to an unclean animal. If you said regarding an unclean animal, the shechita does not purify it, this is reasonable. Since there is not found among its entire kind an animal that is fit for shechita. A dog is never fit for shechita. Horse is never fit for shechita.
But that's like self-understood, no?
Correct. Will you say the same thing regarding a treifa? That where there are found among its kind animals that are fit for shechita. Since it is of the kosher species that are included in the law of shechita, it is purified through shechita, even though it cannot be permitted for consumption. For example, if you have an X-ray machine and you check the cow and you see that it's treifa, meaning that even if you shecht it, it will never be kosher. You know it beforehand. But you don't want it to die and become nevela. You want to use its skin. So you shecht it, and the shechita purifies it from nevela. So maybe I can argue the same thing about a horse. I'll shecht it, and then it's not going to be in a status of nevela.
Wait a minute, is the horse, so wait a minute, if the horse dies...
Obviously it's not, but
Same logic.
The argument is there.
Okay.
A horse is taref. It's el taref.
It's not kosher, so it can't be true.
Yeah, but it's taref.
It says it was never fit for shechita. A cow, kosher animal, is state that it's the time that it fits for shechita.
But a cow could be taref.
Of course.
And a horse could be
A
taref.
horse, no.
Is taref?
Horse is like a state of nevela.
Worse than taref.
Of course. Where there are found among its kind animals that are fit for shechita, since it is of a kosher species that are included in the law of shechita, it is purified through shechita, even though it cannot be permitted for consumption. The Tana notes, however, that a certain category of kosher creature is excluded from this law. Ben Shmei Nechai, with respect to an 8-month fetus that is born alive, even to a clean animal, meaning to a kosher animal. The law is, Ein shchitoso metarta, its shchita does not purify it of the tumah of nevela, lemfi she'ein b'minu shchita, since there is not found among its kind any that is fit for shchita. It says in number 12, even if the non-viable fetus is slaughtered before it expires, before it dies, it's being slaughtered, we have no justification for considering it tahor, since a non-viable fetus does not meet the criteria for inclusion in the category of cattle and flocks. We treat it like an unclean animal, whose shechita does not even affect purification for it. Rabbi Meir and the sages disagree in the Mishnah regarding a case in which one slaughters the mother and then severs the protruding limb. Whether the fetus remaining flesh is tame because it touched nevela or because it touched terefa. All agree, however, that the flesh contracted some form of tumah through contact with the protruding limb. Now, the flesh did not necessarily touch the tame limb after it was severed. The reason it is automatically deemed tameh is presumably that it touched the limb below the surface of the skin before they became separated. The Gemara asks, Amai, what should be, or why should the flesh be contaminated at all? The Gemara answers, Tumas beisas esorim hi. This is a case of contact with tumah in a concealed area. But tumas beisas esorim lo metamyo. And the law is that contact with tumah in a concealed area does not contaminate. Leima Rabbi Meir letaime, shall we say that Rabbi Meir follows his own reasoning, which is that contact with tumah in a concealed area does contaminate that nan, for we learned in the Mishnah, shloish al shloish shenechlak. If a garment that is 3 tfachim wide by 3 tfachim long and had been tameh du midras, through stepping, was divided into 2. It has to have a certain size in order to receive tumah. In order to contract tumah, it has to have a certain size. But now, after it contracted tumah, it was split into 2. It was cut. Shenechlak was divided in 2. Toher min midras. Each segment is toher of the tumah of midras. Aval tome maga midras. But it's tome on account of contact with a midras. These are the words of Rabbi Meir. Div Rabbi Meir. V'chi be'eze midras nogazeh. Why? The Gemara says, which midras did this one touch? Ella, rather, the only means for each segment of cloth to remain tomeh after the division is sheim noga b'zav she'er tomeh magazav. That if a zav touched the garment before its division, she'er tomeh magazav, then after the division each segment is toil only of midras, but tomeh on account of contact with a zav. We see from this Mishnah that according to Rabbi Meir, tumah can be transmitted through contact in a concealed area. Even if it's concealed, it can still be transmitted. Whereas according to Rabbi Yossi, it cannot be transmitted in this matter, in a concealed area. With respect to our Mishnah, in which all apparently agree that tumah is conveyed through contact in a concealed area, shall we say that both Rabbi Meir and Chachamim and the sages follow Rabbi Meir's reasoning in regard to transmission of tumah in a concealed place, and the sages who dispute Rabbi Meir in our Mishnah in regard to what type of tumah the flesh has, do not include Rabbi Yossi. The Gemara responds that this is not necessarily so. Lav itmar alo, was it not stated regarding the cited Mishnah? They taught that Rabbi Yossi dispute Rabbi Meir only regarding a garment measuring 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim that was divided into 2, where each segment is smaller than the minimum measure required for midras. In this case, the only contact with a midras occurred before the division, when the garment still had the required dimension for midras. We're almost done. And since this contact occurred in a concealed area, Rabbi Yossi considers it ineffective. Aval sholish al sholish habos in beged godol, but with respect to the segments of 3 finger breadth by 3 finger breadth that come from a large garment, which has the measure of 3 tfachim by 3 tfachim, even after the segments have been torn off, The law is different. In this case, if the parent garment was a midras, the torn off garments or the torn off segments are torn only of the tumah of midras due to the small size, but are tomeh on account of contact with the midras, because we assume that b'shas prishoson me'avien mekablos tumah me'avim. At the moment that they were separated from their parent garment, they inevitably acquired tumah from their parent garment by touching it. Hanami, in this case of our Mishnah too, we may say the same thing. The reason the flesh of the fetus is tomeh b'shas prishoson me'avir mekabel tumah me'avir. At the moment of its separation, it was decapitated. It was not decapitated. It was severed. It was cut off. At the moment of its separation from the protruding limb, it inevitably acquires tumah from that limb by touching it. Even Rabbi Yossi agreed that it acquires tumah, since the contact occurs between the surfaces that became exposed during the severing. Remember, they both agree that it becomes tumah. The question was if it's tumas nevel or tumas treifa. Another explanation for the Mishnah's ruling is presented. Ravina Omar beged la v'chasicha koi. A garment does not necessarily stand to be severed. Ubar lechasicha kai. A garment does not necessarily stand to be severed, whereas the limb of the fetus that protruded from the womb does stand to be severed. And anything that stands to be severed, that is about to be cut, kechosuch dami, is legally considered as though it has already been severed. Buchim to you.